Maury, we want you to break it down for us. We are all in this difficult time, and it's always difficult to negotiate. And you've written the book, Bring Yourself, How to Harness the Power of Connection to Negotiate Fearlessly. So in these difficult times, just one big thought on one big lesson can you give everybody about negotiating fearlessly?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's great to see you. One big thought. So I think if I had to sort of bring it down to what I would tell everybody during this time, where there's a lot of unknowns, we're dealing with a lot of emotions and fear and anxiety, I would say that there's a lot of room for connection, actually, even though we all seem so far apart. And from the sense of a shared notion of fear, anxiety, there comes this opportunity to actually be vulnerable and be open. And when sort of interacting with each other, to exercise empathy. And some of these things would probably not come into the conversation, especially if we're talking about business and corporate world. But I think this is that time where we're really humanizing these interactions.
Well, let me understand this. Now, if I want to be a better negotiator, especially in these difficult times, I should let people know how I feel, which, it's not necessarily something I do all the time.
Imagine that, Ken Shropshire. Yeah, well, so I don't mean getting on like your first business call of the day and hysterically crying. That's not what I mean. But what I mean is that,
I'm not there yet. That'll be the next.
Wouldn't do that anyway, but just in case. But I mean that we almost sort of take ourselves into these meetings normally, under normal circumstances, with a little bit of a shield, sort of very protected, right? And not bringing in our home lives into the conversation, not bringing in any of the things that are on our minds. But the truth is, where you're in my home, right? So like in some ways, like these Zoom calls almost humanize us anyway and connect us in a way that we weren't connected before, right? We get insight into one another's lives in a way that didn't necessarily happen before, right? We took ourselves into the office, we took ourselves into work. So there was that separation anyway. Okay. But there is this human element that connects us right now. And I think the more open and transparent you are, the more of an opportunity it is to actually connect with somebody on that level. It's sort of a shared experience.
So take advantage of the moment and maybe stepping a little bit outside of one zone, mine, yes, to make that greater connection. So, but for those that are thinking about this whole negotiation thing, can we all be better negotiators? Can we all be better?
Yeah, I mean, there's this sort of a myth that exists that people are born great negotiators, and that's absolutely not true. There's not a negotiation gene, right, that you're born with. And the truth is that it's a learned skill. So it's like, anything else that you practice, any muscle that you've exercised, right, you get stronger, you get better. And I think that literally anybody can be a great negotiator. It's really sort of understanding who you are, first of all, knowing your values, having conviction in those values so that you can present yourself authentically, but also working at it, just like you would with anything else, knowing some of the things that maybe are your strengths, and then understanding things that you may have some difficulty with and working to improve those.
Okay, well, let's think about a couple of specifics. And I know some people are going through different versions of these, but here are two specific. You're having trouble, or you will have trouble, you forecast you're gonna have trouble paying the rent or your mortgage. I don't know, do I wanna be vulnerable? Do I wanna go to the bank and say, here I am, give me a break? Or how do I do this?
I sort of don't put on my optimistic hat on this. I kind of go to a very sort of cautious reality. And I think if this is to be played out, and let's say people are not back to work in 3 months, or not back to work in 6 months, or, maybe if somebody is getting unemployment and they can't really plan on getting this money for a year, you're sort of planning for the unknown in those situations where, maybe it's not a very pessimistic outlook, a mere optimistic outlook. It's much more of a sort of cautious outlook. But you're going to your vendors, you're going to your landlord, you're going, even if you have to go to your bank and say, listen, I'm doing the best I can to plan this out. This is my situation. And this is really the best I can do right now. But, if things turn around in 6 months, can we revisit this? Because what you don't want to do is overpromise and underdeliver and keep going back and renegotiating some deal. But also, if you're honest, the truth is most landlords are not big corporations. They're like an average ordinary Joe who invested in a building maybe, and they have problems too. So again, this goes back to that shared experience. You're honest with them, you're transparent, you're saying, it's not that I don't want to pay you. It's just that we're in this place where we've never been before, but I'm doing my best to plan. And this is my offer of compromise, if you will.
So I'm getting the feeling that there's no magic trick. The trick is within yourself to make yourself be more open, to be, if it's not your character, to be more honest, to lay out there why you're in the situation you're in and why you want what you want in a given setting.
Yep. And tell your story. A lot of people are not used to telling their story, but this is that time where, your story is really your truth. And if you can explain why this is so challenging for people, they have stories too. And that's really sort of, again, this goes back to my book, is really the thing that creates these connections and negotiations isn't the transaction. It's really the humanity, basically, at the end of the day.
Okay, and we've been talking like everything's big business or rent. Let's ask this one. What about, and we're spending a lot more time, not me, mine are out the house, with our kids, and we have to negotiate with our kids. And again, sometimes there's some difficult moments now, like you can't give them their allowance, or they can't go to some event that is socially distanced properly because you can't afford it. What recommendation do you have with a parent-kid conversation?
I think it's actually no different. I would say that you have to be open and transparent, right? And the kids will understand if you explain it to them. Now, they may not like it, but you have to explain to them why, because it's not enough to say no. That's the first thing. The second thing is for parents to really be curious and empathetic towards their kids, right? So what are the kids going through? What is important to them right now? What are the things that they're not able to do, right? Seeing their friends, not having had graduations, whatever it is. So they've been sort of robbed of experiences as well. So I think that, again, if we can use this moment to come together and really be more open and honest, empathetic, and really sort of, rather than presuming what the kids are going through or presuming that they know what you're going through, really having these moments that we may actually, there's something really interesting about this, because it is bonding us. It is bringing families together in a lot of ways, taking advantage of that to be closer, to be more open, to be more honest, and sort of walk hand in hand through this journey that's really difficult for a lot of people.
Thank you for breaking it down for us. We're all much better negotiators now. Take care of yourself.
This hour of local news is made possible by contributions from the Friends of PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you. If you have comments about Arizona PBS News, please contact us at one of the addresses on your screen. Thank you.